It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Vivekanandan, who is a dynamic surgeon from Arvind Eye Care System, Pondicherry, and he'll be presenting a very nice case showing multiple delineation in phacoemulsifications. Dr. Vivekanandan, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, please share your presentation.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank Chitra Madam, AOS ARC for giving me this opportunity. So today I'll be presenting a series of 3 cases, but all same type of cataract, but different scenarios. So as we all know, the most challenging cases for us is either the very, very hard ones or the very, very soft cataracts. So today I'll be showing 3 cases of soft cataract. So this is case 1. So the problem with soft cataracts is it is very difficult to chop them, to crack them. So the main problem we have is we have a lot of cheese wiring happening, and then we end up having a central bowl, and removing the peripheral part of epinucleus and the cortical matter becomes difficult. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to do multiple hydro delineations. So 3 to 4 delineations, then I start from the center, remove the endonucleus, and then remove layer by layer. So this way there is no need for going in with your stop and chop setting or your chop setting. So you don't debulk the central part of the nucleus. Instead, you kind of create multiple layers, remove them one by one. This is a little easier. This is a real-time video, just a few seconds and it is done. But once when we try to chop or try to do a divide and conquer, we end up having a lot of cheese wiring, and the rotating of the nucleus, everything becomes a little bit of problem. So the second scenario is it has a preoperative posterior capsular tear, as you see. So this was a young patient with an old history of trauma. So what I wanted to do was I gave IV mannitol to this patient so that the vitreous becomes a little dehydrated. A partial hydrodissection was done because I could identify the PC margins. Then multiple delineations was done. So by doing multiple delineations, I kind of loosened out all the epinucleus and the central endonucleus. So the main idea of doing this is debulking. So if at all the PCR extends, I do not want anything falling inside. So the main idea was debulking. And most important part is all the parameters are lowered. No, I do not go in with my phaco setting. I do it with my epinucleus mode setting. So epinucleus mode, like I have an aspiration of 38 fixed, 350 vacuum and power of 40. And this is the most interesting part. When we know that there is a preoperative PCR or we are expecting something, it is very important to leave the last part of cortex outside. So what here I'm trying to do is I'm trying to separate the cortex from all quadrants before centrally aspirating them. So even at this point, even if you have a little bit of vitreous disturbance, there will not be any cortex drop or loss of nuclear material into the vitreous. So even vitrectomy can be done and IOL can be placed. So in this scenario, we didn't have any vitreous disturbance. Since we had seen the PCR preoperatively, we gave IV mannitol, it kind of helped. And the third case scenario, this is a PPC case. And once the rhexis was done, we could see the posterior capsular tear extending from in the center. So what we did was we avoided any type of hydrodelineation, the same concept, 3 to 4 times multiple hydrodelineations was done. And then with the lowered phaco parameters, very little fluid going into the eye, gently it starts from the center and then removed peripherally. So layer by layer, all the soft nuclear material is being emulsified. So once that part was done, so once the layer by layer removal of the epinucleus is done, we are left with the last part of the epinucleus. So in this part, if you try to aspirate, it's going to be very difficult because it's all sticking together. So I prefer doing a viscodissection. So gently separating the epinucleus and cortex from the posterior capsule. So at this point, you can see there is a little bit of vitreous disturbance. So most important thing is before removing your probe, try to flatten out the epinuclear plate, inject viscoelastic. And I prefer using a Simcoe or a bimanual aspiration. So Simcoe is always underneath the plate so as to prevent it falling posteriorly. And once the cortex floating in the anterior chamber is removed, a little bit of central vitrectomy is done. And then the IOL is placed in the bag. Or in a 3-piece IOL in the sulcus. Since the support was adequate, I preferred placing it in the back. But ideally, 3-piece IOL with the optic capture will be best. So take-home message will be multiple hydrodelineations in cases of soft cataracts. In case of cataracts with PC dehiscence or anticipating any PC dehiscence, it's better to give IV mannitol or oral glycerol, like Ramamurthy sir said previously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vivekanand. There were a lot of pearls, not just one pearl in what you said. So the only thing I wanted to ask you, it seemed to be quite perfect. Supposing you have a hard cataract, you know, these multiple hydrodelineations will not be so effective. So would you believe in doing an inside-out hydrodelineation in that particular case, or how would you approach that?
Sometimes we end up having a hard endonucleus, madam. In that case, I prefer chopping it. But the main idea is to keep the peripheral parts loosened. The central part is pretty much easier to emulsify, I feel. So to keep the peripheral parts not cheese wiring or becoming a ball or clumsy, so I prefer doing a lot of hydrodelineation so that I can remove layer by layer.
Irrespective whether it's a soft or a hard cataract?
No, madam. This is just for soft cataracts.
That's what I was asking.
So if I may just intervene, Chitra, layer by layer technique of equemulsification was described in 2008 by Professor Vajpayee for posterior polar cataracts.
Yes.
And at that time, we never had a femto. So I think very well extrapolation of that for soft cataracts, especially to prevent cheese wiring. So, of course, with again, Dr. Ramamurthy will say, and I would agree, and all of us, that for those with posterior polar cataracts, probably femtosecond is a better option because you can make cylinders and blocks and grids over there.
And also these multiple layers actually protects the capsule, more importantly, besides the ease of removal, because all the intralenticular pressure or the forces of in this area operation is not transferred to the weak area of the capsule. So that's what can be done with the Lensex platform of femtosecond laser, where you can create multiple cylinders, and thus you have layer by layer, as you were trying to do. Any other question, Harshul?
Dr. Vivekanandan, what gauge of the cannula do you recommend to the the younger surgeons, and which type of cannula they should use for these multiple hydrodelineation?
So we use a 26 gauge cannula. The smaller cannula, the better actually. We kind of get when the cannula bore is a little wider, what happens is you cannot get so many delineations. It kind of you get one or two, that's all. So the main idea is as many delineations you have, it is easier to remove it layer by layer. It is easier to see where that part of the epinucleus or endonuclear ring ends. So you can, even if it's not coming with your vacuum, you can gently scoop it out with your Simcoe or spatula.
Yes,
absolutely.
As usual, very well done, Vivekanand. I mean, exquisite videos. But just a couple of observations. One message I would like to send across is that, I also believe that, if you have a PC rent, also if you have a round pupil and a round rhexis margin, you can assume that vitreous is not there. But like the last case you showed where you beautifully put in a lens inside the back, but there's a large rent. I'd always recommend in today's world that you put in a little bit of transtone, diluted transtone acetate, and just make sure there are no strands. I'm quite sure there was nothing, but it's always a good idea to ensure. And sometimes I'm surprised that even in these very simple cases, you find a couple of strands and you can deal with them right on the table instead of having to deal with it later on. And second observation that I have is that, you had a situation where some of these cases I found that though the hydrodelineation wave was passing right through underneath, I would like to avoid that in even if I'm doing segment by segment. And there's a lot of talk about this ASOCT in posterior polar cataracts. Are you doing it in your centers?
Yes, sir. For all posterior. Yes, sir. For all posterior polar cataracts, we do ASOCT. So with cases where dehiscence is there, we try to give oral glycerol. If the physical health of the patient is good, we prefer to give 50 ml of mannitol, IV mannitol before surgery. One interesting find, sir, not all patients where ASOCT shows PC dehiscence do not have posterior capsular rents. So that observation, almost like 40%, there is no PC dehiscence on table, but ASOCT suggests PC dehiscence. So I think we still are studying that more precisely.
So I think that also occurs because it depends on what ASOCT you are using. So if you use KCR2, which has got a higher resolution and picks up the PC much better, then probably the chances of picking it up are much more as compared to if you use a normal kind of a ASOCT. I think also you need to qualify in your soft cataracts is the settings. I think settings are important when you're doing
Yes.
soft cataract.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
good point, Namrata. And I tend to agree with Vivek in the sense that, if you find that there is a PC rent and you suspect it, sometimes you're pleasantly surprised that it is not there. But if you feel that the PC is intact, the OCT shows that the PC is intact, it is intact. I mean,
is.
on the table, you don't find that it is, you're faced with a surprise. So that way you have to qualify your observation that manner.
May I?
But it was a, yes,
Yes.
Dr. Kashyap.
I have an observation. Nowadays, finding a pre-existing PCR in the era of anti-VEGF injection is on rising. So I have got a lot of a series of such cases. And in my experience, what I do in these cases, especially these cases, I've got a hard cataract. So what I do is I enter the anterior chamber, put the visco, and then I go into the posterior chamber, pars plana, put the trocar cannula, do a little bit of anterior vitrectomy, put my irrigation, and titrate the height of the bottle so that it just maintains it. So what it does, it pushes the nucleus upwards, and you are little on the safer side. And you know that the nucleus is not going to drop down very easily because there is some thrust from inside pushing the nucleus towards the anterior chamber.
Dr. Suhas, you have anything to add? Dr. Suhas, are you there?
Yes.
Ah.
Talking about that case, like Ramamurthy said, it's an excellent demonstration of a lovely case, especially when in both the cases with PCR, he could manage to get the single piece in. I mean,
Yeah.
that is something which, you really need to be good to do it.
Yeah,
So Vivekanand, I was very impressed with that because part of, quite a tear from one end to another end, you
Yes.
were so confident to get the lens in the back. That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very well.
Just an important point for the listeners that we need to be very careful when you're inserting a single piece in the bag. You need to flex it very gently and ensure that you won't overly stretch the bag. Inject enough viscoelastic and go ahead and do it. You have anything to add, Dr. Vivekanand, before you go on to the next speaker?
Thank you, madam. Thanks for this opportunity. And Ramamurthy said, I will take that point. I'll use Tricot regularly from now on.
Also, I think one does need to know, especially in case of traumatic cataracts, whether the pre-existing defect is intraoperative or was it pre-existing. So if you could just highlight upon the points which suggest that it is pre-existing or has occurred intraoperatively, I think that would be important again.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Namrata.